Hi Year 7, Mr. Tapley here for your next lesson of Year 7 Humanities. This lesson I'm going to be outlining what we'll be doing for remote learning over the next few days, hopefully just the next few days, how we're going to be setting up our classes, how we're going to be accessing resources and developing understanding of the content during remote learning. So that'll take me a few minutes, and then hopefully the rest of the video I'll be able to go through the class slides, explain what the lesson activities are, and how and where to complete your textbook questions. If you have any questions or concerns about this, again, feel free to let me know. You can email me at any time during our lesson, out of lesson, before lesson, after lesson, and I should be able to get back to you very, very quickly. So I'm sure you have a few questions about how all this is going to work. So feel free to let me know. I'm happy to help you guys if you let me know there's a problem. So I'm going to get that out of the way. I'm trying to keep things simple. I'm trying to keep things similar to what we were doing on site at school in our classroom. So you can see I've still got our lesson plan set up here in Compass. Still has access to our learning intention, success criteria, the class slides that we'll be using, what we're doing each lesson. So that's still there for you to view. We've still got the class slides and all our resources in Compass. We've still got Google Classroom available. Again, class slides, textbook chapters. What I'll be adding during remote learning is these videos. So instead of doing like a live Zoom lesson every class, which some of my students didn't really enjoy last year, and instead of giving you no help at all, just being like, go read the textbook. I thought this would be a good balance between helping you guys and also giving you a bit of space to work by yourself. So each lesson I'll be creating a little video, a little instructional video, going through the class slides, going through the content, and hopefully explaining some of the more difficult concepts to help you understand what we're doing each lesson. So you can pause the video, you can rewind the video if I'm talking too quickly or you need to hear something for a second time. And that video will still be there the next day and the day after if you want to revisit it or review it, or if you need help on assignments, future, later in the term, you can go and use that video as a little study resource. So hopefully this will be a nice little setup for you guys. But again, if you're not a fan, please let me know and I'll see what I can do to fix it or improve it or change it. So today we're looking at migration and multiculturalism. So if I go to our class slides, you can see lesson plan there. You can see my face is in the way. So we're developing our understanding of migration, so the movement of people, and how our origins influence personal and national identity. So introducing a new topic while also trying to connect it to our previous topic of identity. Success criteria is to define migration and multiculturalism. So 2 words there. I'm hoping by the end of the lesson, you guys will know what both of those words mean and how they connect to or they impact our personal and national identity. There we go. So, national identity, multiculturalism. So culture refers to the traditions, practices, and beliefs of a group of people. So the language you speak, your religion, the food you eat, music, art, clothing, holidays you celebrate, the sports you play, all those things make up your culture. So it could be you celebrate Australia Day. That's part of an Australian culture. You could celebrate traditional holidays like Chinese New Year. That could be part of your culture. Maybe you have dumplings and ramen for dinner every night, which sounds good to me. So that's part of your culture. Now, multiculturalism refers to a society or a place where a range, a lot of different cultures exist together, like Australia. Australia is an excellent example of multiculturalism because we have almost 200 different types of nationalities represented in our country. Australia is exactly like our school. So our school, Glen Waverley, is a very multicultural school. We're very diverse. There's lots of different people and cultures in our classroom. And our personal identity is influenced by our family and our culture. So it influences who we are, while also our shared national identity, so what it means to be Australian, is also influenced by our cultural diversity. So hopefully you understand why culture is important and how it impacts who we are and who Australia is. Because if we didn't have those different nationalities in Australia, Australia would look very different. And if you didn't have the language you speak, the religion that you support or believe in, or the clothing, music, food, music, art, all those things are very important to who you are. If you take them away, you're going to be a blank slate. You're going to be a blank page of a book. There's not going to be anything left. Now, some of these class activities, unfortunately, we can't really complete during remote learning. So there's a lot of discussion and group work and pair work. So I'm not going to be asking you to complete these as required learning. However, what I would say is if you have the opportunity to use something like Discord or Zoom or some other messaging application, you can complete these little group and pair discussions with a classmate, with a friend. You might find that these slides are a bit more easy to understand and a bit more enjoyable if you're completing them, reading them, watching these videos together with someone else. So I'm encouraging you to get involved in that if you'd like. However, it's not mandatory. It's not compulsory. You don't have to complete some of these class activities. So I'll let you know in these videos what is necessary for your notes and for the notebook and the textbook questions, and what you can complete as something optional, just to improve your understanding and to, I guess, keep in touch with your mates, which is important. So in the past lesson, we identified several images that represented Australian identity. So Australian flag, the environment, Great Barrier Reef, Vegemite. The first thing you could do to remind yourself about Australian national identity is share some of those pictures with your classmates. Compare and share. You have something similar, different. Talk about maybe why that is, maybe why that shouldn't be there. You might have differing opinions, and that's fine. Another thing you could do is on the next slide, we've got a little world migration map, I guess. So with my other Year 7 class, we had the opportunity to go up on the board and put little crosses or little dots next to where everyone in the class was born, so their cultural background. So you can't do that, obviously, during remote learning, but what you could do is talk to your mates about their cultural background. So where were you born? Where was your family born? Your parents, your grandparents, your great-grandparents. And that might give you some idea of how diverse our country is. On last Friday of my other Year 7 class, we had dots in China, India, Australia, Egypt, Venezuela, America, Mr. Taffy's from. It was very, very diverse. There were a lot of people from lots of different nations, and that's a good representation of our school and I think of our country. The final discussion question you have the option of completing: what evidence and examples of multiculturalism can you find in Australia? Something to think about. You can record that in your notebook, or you can just have a little moment to reflect about it yourself, or again, share your opinion with a classmate. So what evidence and examples of multiculturalism can be found in Australia? My Year 9s and I went on a little, mini excursion on last Friday, down to Kingsway, which is the, shopping district opposite the movies in Glen Waverley, the Village Cinemas shopping district. And we saw a lot of examples of multiculturalism. There were signs up advertising for Chinese New Year. There were Indian restaurants. There was a couple Japanese restaurants. There was a little souvlaki place set up in the corner. So there's a lot of examples of multiculturalism in Glen Waverley, just next door. So consider different types of examples of multiculturalism in Australia. Now, that's one half of what we're doing today, so multiculturalism. The other word we were trying to define, if you remember our learning intentions, our success criteria, is migration, so the movement of people. So hopefully examining both of those terms will help us understand our personal national identity in a bit more detail. So migration refers to the movement of people from one place to another, so from one region or nation to another region. Immigration is when you move into a country. So when you move into a foreign nation, that's immigration. Emigration is where you exit, where you move out of a country. So just the different types of migration there. Now, our home and our school have been shaped by migration. Without migration, Australia and GWC would be unrecognizable places. If I go back to that map, if I took away every student in our classroom that didn't have a cultural background only in Australia, that was always born in Australia, parents, grandparents are born in Australia, our classroom wouldn't have any students in it. It would look very different. I wouldn't be in the classroom because I wasn't born in Australia. So without migration, our country and our school would look very different. People migrate to another nation for lots of different reasons. Maybe you're going to visit a new country for a job or for school or to get away from something bad like a war. So people will either be pushed out of their own country or they might be pulled in. So brought in from other factors, good things. Now, another discussion question, again, that you can consider yourself, you can write it in your notes or share it with a mate. Why would people migrate to another nation? And how does migration influence our national identity? Something to discuss. I also highly recommend you watch that quick little video there. It's only 2 or 3 minutes long. Oops, that's half of my face. Hello. It's only 2 or 3 minutes long. It's by BTN, which are an Australian publication. And it's just a really quick, really simple, easy to understand video about migration. So if you're having trouble understanding the class slides about migration, I recommend you watch that video there. That should help you answer that discussion question and help you understand the connection between migration and identity. And it's someone else's voice you can listen to besides my silly accent. Whoops, almost started the video. Now, the fun stuff. This is what we're doing this lesson, our lesson activities. So we're going to read through a couple of pages in our textbook, not a lot, it's only 2 or 3. Reading through chapter 19.2.1, and I'll show you where that is, and reading through chapter 19.4. And then we're completing the following questions in either your digital or physical notebook. Now, some people were using the digital notebook back at school. Go find my face. So we've got this digital notebook set up in Google Classroom. Looks something like this, where you can take notes, where you can record textbook questions, side responses, and I'm happy for you to do that during remote learning because I can view your notebook, I can make comments, leave feedback, help you with difficult questions in real time. That's only your notebook. It's your notebook that you have access to. Everyone has an individual one. No one's going to steal your notebook or write something you don't want to write. So I'm happy for you to do that. The other option is to write in your physical notebook. So some students prefer a physical notebook where they can just write in their pen or pencil or paintbrush or crayon, whatever you're using. And that's fine. It just means that I'll be checking your notebooks when we get back to school on Thursday. So you don't get away with not doing anything. You're writing something in either the digital notebook in Google Classroom or the physical notebook. So it's up to you. No wrong way to do it. And if you have questions or concerns about that, please let me know. I did see that a few students with the digital notebook, instead of using the template that I set up, they went into the assignment and they added a new file because they had already created something to write notes in, or they were using Microsoft Word or something like that. And there should be an option in the student version to add a file to this location, and that's fine. You can add something else, and as long as I can see where you're taking your notes, that's good because I know that you're engaged in class. I know that I can give you help if you're having trouble with certain questions. As long as you're taking notes and answering the questions, I don't mind where it is, as long as it's happening. Now, what I'd like you to do is answer the following 3 questions. Question 1, define the term multiculturalism and provide one example in Australia. Now, some of that has been discussed in the video, some of that you'll find in the textbook. Question 2, explain how national identity is important to our country. So consider how our country might be different if we didn't have a national identity. Consider why a national identity is important to, I guess, bringing people together. Having a shared identity, something they can all relate to connect to, making sure we're all friends. And then question 3, the final question. This one is a personal opinion. There's no wrong answer. Humanities is a fun subject because you can often answer, more than one answer. In maths and science, it's always going to be the same answer. But in humanities, as long as you can explain yourself and argue why you're right, you'll get full marks. So no wrong answer for this question. But the question is, if you migrated to a new country, would you keep your previous culture, your language, your traditions and festivals, or would you want to integrate or join your new nation's culture and identity? So if you move to Germany, are you going to be a German? Are you going to learn how to speak German and you're going to follow German holidays and eat German foods? Or would you still keep part of your old culture, your old identity? So that's your question to answer. It's your opinion. And I want you to explain why in that question there. So it's only 1 or 2 sentences really for each of these questions. It shouldn't be a lot of work. 3 questions to complete in your digital or physical notebook. The textbook chapters, again, are available in Compass or Google Classroom. This is what chapter 19.2 looks like, and you're reading 19.2.1. So not even the whole chapter, it's just this one page here. And then chapter 19.4 is a bit further down. believe that's 2 pages. So it talks about what is national identity. That'll help you with question 2. And it talks a bit about Indigenous identity. So that's everything you need for this lesson, guys. If you have questions or concerns, again, please let me know. I know it's going to be a bit stressful. The first lesson of remote learning, first day of remote learning, I know you're going to be a bit confused, a bit overwhelmed, and that's fine. Everyone else is going to be feeling that way, whether they're students or staff or parents. Everyone's going to be a bit stressed in that first day. So just remember, you're not alone in feeling that way. And if you have concerns or questions, if you feel like you can't complete the textbook activities before the end of the lesson, the best thing you can do is let me know, because I'll be happy to talk about an extension or help you with any of these questions if you let me know. Okay? I hope you guys are well. Looking forward to getting to see you again in person on Thursday. And cheers. Good luck.